Hi everyone, in this new episode of HitEnter, I'm talking with Jan Andriessen of the Dutch VC firm HenQ about their new fund, how you can contact as a first-time entrepreneur a VC, why they invested in one of the most successful Dutch and Rotterdam-based startups, Mendix, and how a few young lads in the Dutch VC landscape are trying to innovate and in that way contribute to the Dutch startup ecosystem with their new initiative, VC. Hi Jan, it's a pleasure to have you here with us.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Jan, HenQ recently launched their third fund, which has a value of 50 million euro. But before delving into the details of the fund, I would like to know how HenQ got started now for more than 10 years ago.
Of course. I think it's important to know that I wasn't the one who founded HenQ. That were Herman Hintze and Koen van Duyn. And one of the great things about HenQ is that it was founded without the founders really knowing they were going to be what is now traditionally called a venture capital firm. Koen had some entrepreneurial experience in Russia and Madagascar in very different settings for the Unilever group, but also for
Madagascar.
For a billionaire in Madagascar who eventually ran for president. And Herman had just sold his shares in a software firm, and basically what they wanted to do was help entrepreneurs build great ideas. And they initially did so by founding the Great Idea Factory, which helped scholars and students set up and build their great ideas. And doing so, they ran into the problem of not having substantial impact on them because they weren't really funding them. And basically it was so early stage that a lot of the ideas didn't come from the ground, so they didn't really get running. And they figured, hey, we want to help entrepreneurs a bit better. And they decided to fund startups that, instead of just an idea, had some first customers, that were already running a little bit, and to push those over the limit and make them big companies. And that's how HenQ got started, just out of the passion for entrepreneurship, basically.
Yeah, the passion for entrepreneurship. And now we are a couple of years ahead, and you raised another round, your third round. Can you delve a bit more into that? What's your investment strategy with that specific fund?
Yeah, of course. What we saw in HenQ 1 and 2 is that we had a few very good investments, and we.
Can you name a few?
Yeah, I think the main examples would be Mendix, SEO Shop, Excite, and those are already a bit further. But right now we're also expecting a lot from Monolith, StudyTube, Housing Anywhere. They're really up and coming. Kasengo. So there are still a bunch who will hear from quite a lot in the future. There are a little bit before where Mendix, SEO Shop, and Excite are now, but those would be successful companies.
And what does Monolith do, for example?
Monolith is very interesting. It's software, but it's also related to very old-fashioned brick-and-mortar retail. It's software that helps you analyze in-store as a retailer to optimize your layout of the shop. So basically you increase the revenues for your retail space by analyzing it a bit better.
But that's quite an interesting investment for you, because what I've understood is that you focus solely on B2B startups.
Yeah,
so
it is B2B. So we sell this, for example, we're in a London Nike flagship store. And we sell it to Nike then, and they use it in their retail stores.
Okay. So you were telling about the focus of your new fund. Can you tell us a bit more? So you raised 50 million. How are you going to use that 50 million to invest in new companies?
Yeah. So first of all, we've always been good at companies that sell to other companies and that sell software. So we really look to business software companies, and we want to invest about 2/3 of our portfolio within the Netherlands and 1/3 outside of it. So we were mainly investing in the Netherlands. Now we're also looking at a bit outside of it. Leaving that behind us, that's pretty clear, the sector focus and the geographic focus. We also have a wide range of ticket sizes we fund. So our idea is to initially fund 20 companies with 100 to 500,000 euros. So really from the earliest seed stage, and we intend to fund them all the way up to the big breakthrough internationally, going to a big VC. And so basically we fund from 100,000 to 10 million into a single company.
Yeah, and that's a change in your investment strategy. As far as I know, is that in the Netherlands you're mostly famous as a seed investor and very, very early stage. So how did you decide to reserve some money for following up rounds?
Well, what we saw in our previous successes, so for example, Mendix is now established in the US. It's a very successful firm, and it has had follow-on rounds from large VCs in the US. What we did see is that we could have even done it more quickly if we would have been able ourselves to do a few more rounds in the beginning. So not to spend time looking for an external VC, but to say, hey, we invested a few €100,000 in Mendix, it's doing really well, let's do another 3 million. Let's then do another 7 million.
But it's still quite a stretch because it's most of the time it's quite a different business. So if you're investing in early stage, you have different things you can bring to the table for the startups, for the entrepreneurs. And if you're in a later round, so for example, in the Netherlands at least, if you're at the 10 million range, you're already in the B or maybe even C stage. So how do you help your portfolio companies also in those later rounds, besides the money?
Yeah, our focus has always been to help startups in the early stage, and I think that's still our main expertise. We did also, now with some of our successful companies, gain a lot of experience in the slightly later stages, so we're not going to be a Series D investor, but in the A and B rounds we also have substantial experience.
Yes.
So we can definitely help, and we've proven to be successful. And also what our plan is for A and B rounds is to co-invest, so to already bring in some other investor, but that will still go way easier if you can follow up on the investment yourself and say, hey, this is great, I'm going to do half of this A round. Would you join? This is going so much quicker and more effectively and efficiently than if you go to another VC and say, hey, I'm not going to put any of my money in this, but please do it.
Of course, yes.
So that will still be very helpful. So to answer you, we do have the experience in the later stages, given our track record now, and we will also co-invest to get in additional expertise.
And taking a step back, you just said that you're focusing on B2B and software. Why that specific focus?
It's also our experience. I mean, we believe that as a VC, you bring more to the table than just money. And one very relevant thing you can help startups with is to reduce the time to market by lending your experience. And we've had success and experience mainly in B2B and software.
With your investment, with your portfolio companies.
Yes,
exactly. The successes you're talking about, and maybe it's also related. That's HenQ. Maybe it's also related because Herman himself founded a software company, so that's maybe also a reason why.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I would say that the general experience of the four of us really lies in software.
What really fascinates me is that you also said that your focus was previously solely on the Netherlands, and now you're expanding. Is that somehow related to the fact that the Dutch startup ecosystem, but Europe as a whole, is heating up and there are much more opportunities to look for? Or is there another reason?
Well, I would generally say that if you found the firm as a startup, you always go for, at least if you want to be with HenQ, we were always looking for the startups that want to be global leaders in what they do, or at least in Europe. So we don't look for startups that are Dutch because they want to conquer the Dutch market. We look for Dutch startups because we're a Dutch investor and we know the most firms here, our investor base is here. But we actually believe that every opportunity we invest in is active in a global space, in a global level playing field. And why would we then only look within the Netherlands? So if we see something very interesting that's non-Dutch, we will also consider, because we're looking at the global level playing field already.
Do you already have offices? Because it's, in the end, it's of course more work to focus not only on the Netherlands but also on Europe or the entire world. So that's probably the trade-off you make.
Well, I think that's a very good question. We do focus on Europe, so we're not going to invest in Asia or in the US. And if we invest outside of the Benelux in the Netherlands, we always team up with a local co-investor because we're not planning to open offices abroad. So we're trying to stay lean, so we team up.
Yes.
That's our strategy.
Yeah. One of the most successful startups, Rotterdam-based startups you invested in, is Mendix. How did you meet the founder? How did you know about Mendix?
Yeah, so Mendix we met in the time when it was still only Koen and Herman. I'm not sure, but I think I was still in high school. But we met Mendix in a very funny way. So you would expect perhaps that our...
Sorry, excuse me, but how old are you?
I'm 26.
Okay,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, now I understand.
Yeah, it starts adding up. So we didn't meet Mendix in a way that you would expect. Like we have this website section where you can hand in your plan or send us an email with all the information. We, as far as I know the story, Koen and Herman always went for lunch to this little place, and they sold croquettes, or a snack bar, as we would say in Dutch.
Yeah.
And
can you explain what croquettes are for our international viewers?
For anybody who hasn't been to the Netherlands, I'm not a culinary genius, but they're a very greasy snack.
Okay. It's fast food. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay.
Burger equivalent, I would say.
Okay.
Or even worse.
Yeah.
And,
so Herman and Koen went to eat.
Yeah, and I don't think they went there every day, but they probably went every Friday, and they just ran into these Mendix guys who had this great energy. They were very enthusiastic, seemed to be highly intelligent, and they had this plan of changing the world with their business. And
and probably that was in very, very early stage of Mendix.
Yeah, the earliest stages. Yeah, they were close to pre-revenue, so there was hardly anything.
Yeah.
And there was just the chemistry between the guys. They started talking about the business, and they decided to keep going together and give it a try.
Yeah, and recently we also interviewed Niels van Deuren of Housing Anywhere. Why did you invest in Housing Anywhere?
Well, that's an interesting question. And I'm thinking about the right way of answering it without giving away too much confidential information. But in general, Niels has built a great company with a lot of presence worldwide. So he's active in I don't know how many campuses, has built a great platform, immense usage, and we just saw a lot of value add on the business side, how we could help him convert more financially on all that he has created. And we basically saw an entrepreneur with certain great assets and skills, and we saw that it was very complementary to what we can help a startup with, and that's why we decided to jump in.
But it's quite a crowded market, the housing market with Nestpick and Housing Anywhere and internationally also. So I was wondering why you invested specifically in Housing Anywhere.
Yeah, I think there are several elements to it, and I think in general, in every market you would be active in, you have several players, and
that's true.
You just want to pick the winner, and I think in this case we really believed that Niels had the right ingredients to take it there. And I mean, I find it a bit difficult to go into a lot of detail because it is a very competitive market.
Okay, so then let's switch gears. I actually met Herman Hintze at the Amsterdam Capital Week, which was at the end of September, and he gave quite a passionate and inspiring talk about why he founded HenQ. And he said that he did it because he really wants to help entrepreneurs build great stuff, build great things. So the question is, how do you as a VC firm help entrepreneurs build their dreams besides investing solidly money? Yeah,
it's a very, very good question that of course is very relevant to all startups in the world. Probably you need funding. So in general, I would say, obviously, besides the money, a VC would offer you the opportunity to increase your time to market. In the end, there will be more people in the world that have the same idea. And it comes down to finding a way in which the market wants what you need without supplying it in such a way that all other people are doing the same. And often it comes down to grabbing enough market share in sufficient time to build a sustainable competitive advantage and to build a profitable business in the future. And I think doing so is something that requires a certain time to market. The shorter the time to market, the better, very often in software. And we help you as a VC with that time to market. And I think we help you in two ways. First of all, we help you prevent mistakes by our experience. Simply, we've seen, as a team, we've seen 40, 50 different cases over all those years, over cumulatively, I think, more than 40 years of experience. And we just know in certain phases what to do in certain areas. And that just increases your time to market. And on the other end, we can just help you make better decisions in certain areas. And also speed up some processes. So by being able to fund you from 100,000 to 10 million, that process will go much quicker. So we can say, okay, hey, we just did a seed round of 200,000, now you need 1.5 million. We're just going to do it. We believe in you. Instead of having to spend another half year in the market finding money, spending all this time on something that's not related to your core business.
Yes.
And besides this, helping you raise funding by giving you actually the money or by connecting you on our network, we also are working on increasing the value-adding services. So we spend a lot of time on finding a good network of recruiters and finding the right people for a firm to also take that out of your hands a bit. And so we're working on value-added services as well at the moment, with people sourcing being the first one we're really trying to distinguish ourselves by.
Yeah, and when announcing HenQ III, the new fund, I also read in the announcement that also the limited partners are going to support the startups. How does that go?
Yeah, that's not really a formalized process. We believe, especially in the early stage, the dynamics of being an entrepreneur is just doing it and not spending too much time on everything. So not too many formalized processes. But we do have an investor base that contains a lot of formerly successful internet entrepreneurs. And basically how it works, if we find a case that has overlap with the experience of one of our LPs, one of our investors, then we connect that investor to.
So that's really
startup.
hands-on support, because at least in the Netherlands, it's most of the time you don't know the LPs. They are really hiding, maybe even. So it was quite fascinating to read that your LPs at least are really trying to help the entrepreneurs. So is that hands-on support, or is that more just the money and putting their network at work?
It's not a fixed form for it, so it's very free form. It really depends. Sometimes there will be a need for a person.
So everything is possible?
Everything is possible.
Okay.
When we don't commit to something specific, and we also don't force the entrepreneurs to do something specific. We just see if there's opportunity or synergies between these people, and then we make it work. But it's kind of differ on a per case basis. I
still can't believe you're just 26, but I recently talked also to your colleague Matthijs de Wit, and you, as a bunch of young lads, you're launching a new initiative. Can you tell us a bit more about that initiative?
With pleasure. The initiative is called VC, with VEECEE.co, if you want to find us online.
Okay.
And it got founded in the following way. It's very simple. A bunch of us, of the young VCs in the Netherlands, had basically ran into each other via different events and reasons, and we decided to go for a beer together. And it was a great experience. We had a lot of fun, because as a VC, as a young VC, I mean, there are not that many VCs in the Netherlands, and you all operate in different firms, and you work a lot with your portfolio companies and potential deals, but you just don't get to see each other a lot. You don't get to share experiences with people of the same age and the same profession too much. And we liked it so much that we figured we actually want to do this for all the VCs in the Netherlands. And then we founded VC, and what we're doing now is we're jointly organizing events for young VCs in the Netherlands, and we're going to have our first one very soon. It's invitation only, so I'm not welcome to. I could discuss with the guys, but what we want to do is just because for VCs, a lot of events in the end you end up a lot of people actually want to talk to you, and a lot of startups, and there's very little rest. And what we would like to do is to talk to each other for a bit, share experiences. To learn from each other. To learn from each other, to get to know each other better, but it will also benefit startups, because in the end, if we know each other a bit better, we also know if a startup doesn't fit my VC, then maybe it will fit the other VC that I don't know so well. Great. And so that's the referral issue you were talking about, so you can refer startups to other VCs. Yeah, definitely. And as such, I think the whole ecosystem will become a bit more efficient. Yeah. And we also write blogs on our website. Wow, that's quite innovative. It's for a VC. For a VC. Well, it's a shame that's called innovative, I think. Okay. But what we try to achieve with it is to share our daily life and our work, and to improve communication and understanding from both sides. So we say, hey, if we get a business plan like this, we'll think X, Y, Z. And if you want to have a bigger shot of landing funding with us, then maybe you can do this a little differently. Or so we try to open communication.
But that's at least I think that's really quite innovative, because you're really sharing information and making the whole ecosystem better as a result. And it seems to me that that doesn't come from the older generation. Do you agree, or do you think it doesn't make sense?
I think maybe that varies a bit. I know, for example, Herman, one of our partners, who is from the older generation, does blog a lot. He started doing it before me. He also was a VC before me, so maybe that's why. So I think it varies, but I think it would also make sense that people from my age range would do it a little more, because they grew up in that environment, and it makes sense that young people take on that stuff more quickly and more thoroughly.
Yeah, so you're helping the Dutch startup ecosystem in that way, but me as a founder, imagine I'm founding a new company, I'm a first-time founder, and I would like to contact you. How do I do that?
Yeah, as I touched upon briefly before, as a VC you get a lot of contact requests. It's incredible how many LinkedIn contacts I have since I became a VC, and I'm very often surprised by who want to add me. Yeah. We get hundreds of funding requests every year. Of course, you have
the money, so...
Exactly, yeah. So
that's the reason.
And I think the human psychology in the end, or at least mine, works as following. If you see a lot of things that are similar, you start dismissing it, and you stop looking at it in a way.
True.
And so what I would advise any startup is to either be referred by someone I know, because that's something out of the ordinary. Most startups just send a plan and say, hey, I founded the new great Facebook, WhatsApp, and then all the emails seem a bit the same, and I would find a way to stick out, to tell me a story I haven't heard before, to try to get in via someone I know. Usually we get great investments via people we know and we trust. So if you can find someone like that, that is great. And if you don't know somebody, just try to find a way to stick out. And that you can do that in as many ways as you think, and use your own creativity. Just try to grab my attention.
You just said, because you said it twice, people you trust. What do you mean by that? Find people you trust.
So what, for example, an example would be, say, you know Ruud from SEO Shop, and you've talked about your business, and he likes your business.
So somebody probably in your network, whether it's a VC or entrepreneur or a founder you invested in, that would be the person you would trust. And last point, imagine I don't know anybody, because I think there are startups that have that problem. I don't know anybody in your network. How should I contact you and then?
Yeah, but I would still try to find an original way. So if you cannot access me via my network, send me an email with an interesting title. Try to really find out, before you send me a business plan, what a VC actually wants to know. Or maybe actually send me an email saying, hey, I haven't much experience with VC. Could you tell me what you would like to see in a plan? If you don't understand it from our website, we also clearly say what we like. But try to understand from my perspective what I would like to know. Always try to understand the other person and try to find a way in which your message sticks out. And of course, we always look at all business plans. But it's just much better for you as a startup to stand out and to find an original way or a trusted way via someone we know to get in. That's always the best way to fully get our attention.
Okay, Jan, it was a pleasure to have you here with us. Thank you for being with us.
Likewise, thanks for having me.